Radhe Radhe. A spiritual good morning to one and all on Saturday, 24th September 2022, where Mummy and I are here to record our recap video for today's Bhagavad Gita study session for chapter 6. As a reminder, please take a look at the description below in this section for the video that describes more information about this series of classes that we are having, free for everybody. So we do encourage you to join as and when you can. And there is also more information on websites and links to access information for the Bhagavad Gita and our entire series of classes and offerings, as well as material that is shared through a platform. So that's just some brief information in the description again below as you are seeing this video.
Radhe Radhe, everybody.
All right, so Mummy will go ahead and share these slides and look at what we covered today. We were able to get through chapter 6, verses 10, 11, 12, and 13. As always, after a few quiz questions, then leading into chapter 6, verse 10. Would you like to recite that first?
Yes, chapter 6, verse 10. Gagan has given the catchphrase, spirituality via seclusion. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi sthitaha ekaki yata chittatma nirashira parigraha.
So chapter 6, verse 10, spirituality via seclusion. Fairly self-explanatory there, but the idea is that Sri Krishna himself tells Arjuna and all of us that if we're seeking that union with God, with the Supreme, that state of yoga, then it does require an element of seclusion so that we can practice meditation in a very specific manner and also get rid of hoarding or unnecessary desires or possessions. Swamiji in the commentary gives the example of an Olympic champion where a lot of practice is required to reach mastery. And in fact, a lot of deliberate practice is required to get to that expert proficiency level. Likewise, with meditation or with any practices of sadhana, a lot of time and effort in a very deliberate and purposeful manner are required from each of us. And indeed, mastery can happen. It does take time and it can take several years, but it does happen after all that effort and time is invested. Now, one might think that one doesn't have so much time in a day, which is why it is important to mention that Swamiji often repeats and encourages in his lectures and videos that if one can strive for 2 hours of sadhana per day, that is very, very ideal and amazing. But even if 2 is not possible, an hour a day should be the goal that we should really start with. And that hopefully is possible at a time that is convenient to your own schedule. It could be Brahma Muhurat around the 4 a.m. mark, well before sunrise and before there is noise and chatter everywhere. Could be 5 a.m. Or if you're working with different time zones across countries and your schedule is really different, so to say, from normal, then it could be at night. But whatever works, build that as a possible routine and a set of practices. Sadhana with theoretical gyan and scriptural knowledge, lectures, of course, Vijnan being the goal for that realized knowledge from within, and yoga, meditation, of course, and very importantly, kirtan and bhakti. The devotion element is absolutely essential. Important English word here, immiscible. Let's take that away with us today. Immiscible here really meaning, in a way, non-mixable or unmixable. So like milk mixes with water and gets diluted. Milk is the analogy used to describe our preliminary beginner spiritual mind. But as we get more and more proficient, milk, if you take it into yogurt and then churn it into butter, it will not mix with water. When we are at an advanced spiritual stage, higher up on that ladder of yoga, like butter, our minds become, and they do not get distracted by the equivalent of water, which is the material world and the Maya-based distractions around us. Mummy, I'll give it to you for any commentary, or we go on to the next verse.
Yeah, making butter is very, very important, whereby we don't get distracted by these worldly attractions. That is one thing I just love in Swamiji's commentary. And another thing is that we should make the Aruruk shores, the neophytes, those who are just beginning on this path, they can join the daily sadhana program and then really practice through that. And those then who are little experienced and based on their time availability, they can themselves make their own sadhana package with different spiritual practices, that is yoga, pranayam, uh, a morning walk, then japa, then kirtan, spending some time in your temple, then doing meditation. So this is how slowly we can move up the path of spirituality. And let's see what is Krishna saying in the next verse, that is verse number 11. Gagan has given the catchphrase middle ground. शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरम् आसनम् आत्मनः नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचं चैलाजिन कुशोत्तरम्.
So chapter 6, verse 11, the catchphrase here is middle ground. Short verse in terms of commentary as well, really just talking about how to start out that practice of meditation from a physical standpoint. So Sri Krishna mentions making an asana or a seat where you have kush grass, deer skin, and a cloth. And then also keeping the asana not too high or not too low. Now, Swamiji mentions very importantly here that these instructions may perhaps be anachronous in modern times because we might not be meditating in a forest. We might not be using or even have access to kush grass or deer skin or that setup that is described. But the important element is that the essence of the instructions for internal practice and internal purity, they remain the same. These are instructions that are time immemorial. So the asana, of course, being not too high, not too low, that is something, of course, that now you can relate to as middle ground. Middle ground also meaning it's in the middle of two extremes, which is what we are trying to seek. We are trying to be equanimous in our paths of yoga, therefore middle ground in a spiritual sense as well.
Shuchau is also very important, that hygiene and cleanliness. And then let's look at this word sthiram asanam. Sthiram asanam means a steadfast seat. That is the word we are learning here, steadfast seat, that when you are seated in a steadfast way, you are not moving around. With that, we'll move to verse number 12 and 13. Seated singularity. Tatraikagram manah kritva yata chittendriya kriyaha upavishyasane yunjyad yogam atma vishuddhaye. Verse 13, collinear consciousness. Samam kaya shiro grivam धारयन्नचलं स्थिरः सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वं दिशश्चानवलोकयन्. So we'll take one important word from here, that is tatraikagram. Tatraikagram means one pointed. So we have to be very focused and then we do our meditation.
Yeah, so chapter 6, verses 12 and 13. In fact, first I'll just pick up from where Mummy mentioned one-pointed, tatraikagram. If I take us to chapter 2, verse 41, hopefully some of you might remember that. We've said it several times, one-pointed versus many-branched. Please do keep that in your connections. The resolute, the intellect of those who are on this path, it is resolute, and their aim is one-pointed. They are not getting distracted like those who are resolute, whose aim is many-branched. So that is from chapter 2, verse 41. Back here to chapter 6, verses 12 and 13, the catchphrase is seated singularity, and collinear consciousness. Here, of course, seated again in terms of a steadfast way, the asana, the stiram. Singularity, of course, here referring to the unity of one's purpose, again to seek union with God, yog. Singularity also, from a mathematical standpoint, represents a place where a value takes an infinite place. And that is to help us recognize that we are trying to attain union with the infinite supreme, Sri Krishna himself. As a coincidence, collinear, also a mathematical term, but a little more simpler here. It's really Sri Krishna telling us that with that firm seating, the body, neck, and the head have to be in a straight line. So collinear, all three in a straight line, and in terms of our consciousness also aligned with the supreme consciousness being the eventual goal. So these two verses here, chapter 6, verses 12 and 13, the commentary is fairly long, but a lot of it is something that many of you already can relate to because of your spiritual sadhana and your meditation practices. Swamiji has mentioned three quotes from the Brahma Sutra, akin to quotes from the Patanjali Yoga Sutra or aphorisms from there, and the Bhagavad Gita here, really about sitting in a proper manner, being of a certain posture, and focusing the mind on meditation. From the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Sthira Sukham Asanam, again, steadfast, stiram, as Mummy mentioned, and asanam again being that seat, and really to seek that bliss that we all are striving for. Now, the important thing here is, and again, relating it to current times, is that you do not have to be seated on the floor for your meditation. And in fact, the ability to do that or not shouldn't be something that we blame on the circumstances. Swamiji has often reminded us and mentions here as well that if we are more comfortable by choice or because of ailments sitting on a chair, that is absolutely fine. Take advantage of these circumstances that are conducive for your own individual meditation practices. And that is the key takeaway for all of us. So it could be the floor, could be tile, could be carpet, cold, hot, could be a seat, whatever works. Build that into our individual sadhana routines and practices. And that is going to help us get that deliberate practice and mastery needed to become much more proficient spiritually. The important part here with regards to collinear, right? The body, the neck, the head, that is to also be coinciding with our gaze. Shri Krishna says, put it on the tip of the nose, or Swamiji says you can also close your eyes, as we often do in meditation. All that is to prevent us from being distracted and to prevent our thoughts from wandering. If you're looking at a specific point or your eyes are closed, then peripheral vision won't affect us. Things moving around us, they will not distract us. And that is a way to help control one's thoughts. All this, the benefit, the advantage, the good news is that we have a lot of latent inner potential, which can overcome lifetimes of scum or impure matter or dross. Right here, dross, impure matter. Good news, again, as I said, is it is hidden in us as potential that we can awaken, and several benefits that you see on this side: controlling the uncontrolled or unbridled mind, having good mental balance, resolve, getting rid of bad sanskars. All these are advantages of meditation and sadhana. Mummy?
Yeah, so with these different spiritual practices in which meditation comes on top, we can help control our mind and we can harness our mind. And then we can be very balanced and equanimous in the adverse circumstances. So basically, it gives us a very strong resolve, which is very important to be successful in life. And slowly, then what happens with these spiritual practices, our bad sanskars, they keep on eliminating, and we are able to emulate and cultivate good habits in life, and good qualities then start emerging in us. So basically, the Krishna has told us different ways of meditation and how they can be done in different asanas, but keeping in mind our own situation, we can change them little bit as we are comfortable. Because notice the word sukham, sthira sukham asanam. Sukham means comfortable. Asan is that seat, and sthira is steadfast. You can be seated steadfastly even on a chair also. Okay. And then another thing I want to say, we are here at Radha Krishna temple under the tutelage of Swami Mukunda Nanji, whose book we are following here. This is the book written by Swami Mukunda Nanji. So in this commentary, it says that here we are practicing Roop Dhyan meditation, in which then we can close our eyes also, because that is how we are imagining. Roop Dhyan means we are imagining the different forms of Lord, whichever Lord you are comfortable with. And then we try to take our selves in those locations. Suppose we are, our Ishtadev is Krishna, so we are trying to imagine the forms of Krishna and what were the Leelas Krishna was performing. So when we are doing those meditations, then we can close our eyes also to imagine all those forms. So with that, I want to say thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. And we are doing this free online Bhagavad Gita study session on the platform given to us by Swami Mukunda Nanji of JKYog at radhakrishnatemple.net. So do check in the below the video how to join these free sessions and become a part of our like-minded community who are together are trying to grow on the path of spirituality. Thank you and Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, thank you, Mami, for that final reminder again. Please do look at the description. And with that, we look forward to seeing you all next Saturday, 1st October 2022. Happy spiritual journeys in the meantime. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.